And then the assistant director says, there's somebody wandering around on the set. He's in the shot. Who is that? And we take a close look and we realize it's Frank. And we start yelling, Frank, you're in the shot. Get off he was on his cell phone, just wandering around.
Hey guys, today's video is on Frank W. Dux. Did he really help choreograph those fight scenes from Bloodsport, Lionheart, Double Impact, Only the Strong, and The Quest? Well, with me today, my guest once again, amazing writer-director Sheldon Lettich. He's going to discuss that and also share some pretty funny, amusing stories involving Frank Dux on the set on several of those movies. Anyway, please help support the channel by hitting the like button, subscribing, sharing the video, and make sure you pick up your black belt cologne. I can get you a big discount. All that information is linked in the description below. This is an amazing product, so you deserve to smell like this product. Oh, here's a question. So, obviously, since you weren't on the set of Bloodsport, you would definitely know for Lionheart, Double Impact, and Only the Strong, because I'm pretty sure Frank Dux is listed as fight choreographer on all those films.
Right.
Like, how much involvement did he actually have?
I think he had quite a bit of involvement on Bloodsport, actually. He did a really great job.
All right, so yeah.
Because Jean-Claude was pretty happy with him afterwards. We all got to be good friends. We were hanging out together. And then Jean-Claude and I got him hired to do fight choreography on Lionheart. And he was a big help on Lionheart. It was actually him. It wasn't just Frank. It was also Frank, Michelle Kesey, and Jean-Claude were pretty much. Frank and Michelle would come up with the initial fights. Then we'd show him to Jean-Claude, and he'd make his changes to them.
Okay.
But Frank was very helpful. On Only the Strong, he was AWOL.
He's not going to show.
We could.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I can't picture him choreographing capoeira fights. It's like
he didn't know shit about capoeira, which is all right. He could have learned.
Yeah.
But he was not helpful at all, and was not around most of the time. We couldn't even. We'd be looking for him, and he wouldn't be there. He wouldn't be on the set.
It looks like he did it to us again, huh?
He wouldn't be helping them. Actually, it was the fights in Only the Strong were really choreographed by. We had our capoeira maestre, this guy Amain, who's in the movie, and it was him and Paco. I brought Paco with us on Only the Strong. Well, he played the villain, but he was also the assistant fight choreographer with Frank. The one thing they did for us, they went and scoured every karate school in Miami for fighters.
Still got to check your qualifications.
So all those guys that are doing the fighting, this is Miami, so it's not like we had a huge number of stunt players to choose from. So we went to the karate schools, brought all these guys back, and showed them how to do a movie fight. And Frank and Paco pretty much showed them how to do all this stuff. And then we had a stunt coordinator named Artie Maleshi, who was really helpful. But Frank had very little to do with those capoeira fights in the movie. And most of the time, he wasn't even around. We'd be looking for him.
Mrs. Tanaka, it's very important that we find Frank Dux.
Maybe he was enjoying Miami a little too much.
He was. He came back one day. We're wondering, where's Frank? Well, let's just go on with what we're doing. He shows up. He says, hey, guess what, guys? I was wrestling alligators today. Okay, wrestling alligators. And he's got Polaroids of himself with. I'm not talking about like something out of a Tarzan movie. I'm talking about these 3-foot-long alligators.
Well, I'm just trying to be the best I can be. Not just for me, for Tanaka and my Shidoshi too.
And that's what he was doing that afternoon instead of working on the fight. So he was he was pretty much a waste of time.
It's the last warning, Frank.
And I ended up politely firing him from Only the Strong because he was being not only was he being unhelpful, but he was getting in the way. And he was constantly on his cell phone, not talking to people about the production, but talking to people in LA about various other things. One time we're getting ready to shoot. This is in the evening. Everything's all ready to go. And then the assistant director says, there's somebody wandering around on the set. He's in the shot. Who is that? And we take a close look and we realize it's Frank. And we start yelling, Frank, you're in the shot. Get off. He was on his cell phone, just wandering around, not being helpful at all. Basically, he could have learned a lot by just paying attention to what we were doing.
You're blowing it, Frank.
And he was getting paid for choreographing the fights. And once we had our fighters all picked out, and then he and Paco were giving some classes to these guys, showing them how to take a punch, how to take a kick, because it's, for movie fights, it's all about the guy who's getting hit is the one who really sells the punch.
Yeah.
Because you're not supposed to make contact, so you miss by an inch, but then the guy who's supposed to get hit, he's the one that's got to sell the kick. So they were showing them how to do various things. So he was helpful with that. But on Lionheart, he was quite helpful. That's why we ended up hiring him again, because we thought he did a good job. And apparently he did a good job on Bloodsport. Those fights are really cool in Bloodsport. They're not like the fights you see nowadays in these like John Wick movies. The stuff that's being choreographed nowadays is different. It's faster, it's more brutal. But Frank he did an okay job until he stopped doing his job.
What about Double Impact though?
Well, we were going to hire him to do fight choreography on Double Impact. Hang on just a second.
Because I thought he's in the credits. Is he not in the credits? I mean, it's not like everything on IMDb is real. There's a lot of misinformation.
No, he's in the credits thanks to Frank Dux' Samurai connection. That's the credit.
Also, he never helped Double Impact then.
All he did was, the karate dojo where Jean-Claude is.
He's wearing the tight blue pants and he kicks that Australian dude.
Frank, we got all those props, all the karate dojo props. We got those from Frank. Okay, so that's how he contributed. Now, originally, the first time I went to Hong Kong to scout Hong Kong, Frank came along with me. Jean-Claude and I both thought it'd be a good idea to go with Frank because he's been to Hong Kong before. He knows the way around. Plus, he's got good ideas. He might come up with some good ideas for the movie. So he was in Hong Kong with me, and he ended up being a real pain in the ass.
You're really being a hard ass about this, Frank.
Now we gave him a real shot here because we were going to make him one of the fight choreographers.
Sure.
But he'd be complaining about shit like he was saying that my hotel room was bigger than his. I've got notes on all of this because his agent called me and asked me, well, hey, how come Frank ended up not working on the movie? You guys were going to use him. I said, well, here's all the reasons. These are all written down by his agent.
You're the writer-director. You should have, maybe outside of Van Damme, but like the best room, right?
Yeah, but my room was the same as his.
Okay.
But he was saying my room was bigger. Who gives a fuck? Okay.
At least you got a room, man.
You're in Hong Kong. The production just flew us to Hong Kong, business class. We're in a nice hotel. We've got people showing us around Hong Kong. And you're supposed to be showing me around Hong Kong, actually. And he just kept complaining about stuff and we had Charlie Wang with us. Charlie Wang set up this whole scouting expedition. And so he wasn't complaining to me that much. He was complaining to Charlie Wang, who ended up being one of our producers, that, oh yeah, he said there were bugs in his hotel room.
Oh, sorry. We forgot to call the maid.
That was one of them. The room was smaller than mine, and there were cockroaches in it. Just various complaints about lots of stuff.
Wow.
And Charlie got tired of hearing his complaints. I got tired of them. And then there were more complaints that came out when we went back to LA, and the producers were hearing these complaints. And Jean-Claude and I told him a few times, like, Frankie, you got to stop. You got to stop with all the complaining.
Sure.
Because it's getting back to the production company back in LA, and they're not going to want to use you on this movie. Okay, but he didn't take our advice, and he kept on, because he was obviously complaining to them also, that things weren't quite perfect for him. And eventually it was just decided, let's not take this guy back to Hong Kong. He's just going to be a pain in the ass. And so we ended up using, we got one of the best stunt coordinators in the business, Vic Armstrong. We used some local fight choreographers. And then a few years later, after we made the movie, I'm looking up IMDb, I'm looking up the credits, because sometimes people will sneak a credit in, figuring nobody's going to catch it. And Frank had himself listed as the stunt coordinator and the fight choreographer on Double Impact.
Okay, Frank, it's wrong what you're doing. It's a mistake.
So I had to write to IMDb and tell them, hey, I'm the director. And no, this guy did not do this. But then he also did it on Only the Strong.
Frank, could you give us a break here? Come on, can we stop this?
On Only the Strong, he was hired to be the fight choreographer, even though he ended up being sent home early. But he got himself listed as the stunt coordinator also. But there was this local guy, Artie Maleshi, who was our stunt coordinator. So Frank was basically trying to muscle in. And so I got in touch with IMDb, and they took his credits off. He's not the only one that's done this. I've noticed on some of my other movies, like some guy tried to sneak in a martial arts coordinator credit on Lionheart. Some guy I never heard of in my life.
Wow.
And there he is on Lionheart. And a few people even asked me about him, like, hey, so what did this guy do on the movie? He didn't do shit. I never heard of him. Oh, and then Frank, so Jean-Claude and I got him hired to work on The Quest. Jean-Claude came to me and wanted me to co-write and co-direct The Quest with him. But I was actually pretty busy at this time. I had gotten hired to write a G.I. Joe for Paramount. There was a bunch of stuff I was doing. And
is that the one that eventually got made later? Or because I know they made a G.I. Joe like in the 2000s, didn't they? Like, I guess that'd have been much later. Or did they not use your?
They didn't use my script.
Didn't use that at all.
Yeah, another thing too, I didn't want to get pigeonholed as doing nothing but Van Damme movies, because there were people that were saying also that, well, I didn't really direct Lionheart. Jean-Claude did the actual directing, and I was really the co-director on it. And same with Double Impact. So I just figured, let's put those rumors to rest. If I do The Quest and it's going to say co-directed by, then it's going to make it seem like, well, I guess Jean-Claude really did co-direct those other movies. So I didn't want to do it. Jean-Claude and I both, for years, we thought, hey, Frank's got some, he's a little nutty, but he's got some great ideas. So I said, why don't you hire Frank to co-write the script with you? Because he knows a lot about martial arts. He's got a great imagination. He could probably do it. So that's how Frank got hired to work on the script of The Quest. And actually, he wasn't hired. they put another writer on with him because they didn't trust him to actually write a script on his own. There's a guy named Ed Kamara who doesn't get credit, didn't want credit on the movie.
Interesting.
And Ed wrote, he wrote a movie called Enemy Mine. He wrote, I think he wrote this Bruce Lee biography movie. So we get Jean-Claude hired to write The Quest. And then Moshe Diamant ended up hiring lots of other writers on top. But that was all that Jean-Claude, that Frank did on The Quest, was working on the script, on the very first draft, which was then rewritten by lots of people. So Frank gets invited to a lunch and so they actually ended up hiring a guy named Steve Lambert. And Steve,
Yeah, I talked to him, by the way, so I know what you're about to
you heard about this then.
Oh, I've heard about this. I made a video about this.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right, where basically Steve gets invited to a lunch that Frank is at, and I think maybe Michelle Kesey was there and a few other martial arts guys. And Frank didn't know who Steve Lambert was, or didn't recognize his face. So they end up talking, and Frank's telling Steve and the rest of the people there, "Oh yeah, I did the fight choreography on The Quest." Well, Steve says,
all of a sudden the Quest got brought up, and he said he was the stunt coordinator.
Boom, you got him.
Yeah, I rose and I gave him a piece of my mind with respect, and everybody was shocked.
And he told me Frank Dux was never on set.
no, he was
He
never on
didn't see him
set.
there at all. So
Right.
that's a little awkward when Dux brought that up.
Right. But this is just another example of him trying to take credit wherever he can grab a credit.
Great, Frank. That's just great.
And so Steve says, "Oh, no, you weren't, Frank. I was the fight choreographer, and I even have a credit as a fight choreographer. You were never on the set." And apparently Frank, rather than getting into it with Steve, because he knew he'd been busted,
Yeah.
I think just left the restaurant very quietly.
Wow.
And suddenly they couldn't find him.
Disappears again.
Yeah,
Said disappears again, just like
disappears again. Right. So he's kind of made a habit of doing things like this, claiming credit, but he just loves taking credit for stuff that he had nothing to do with.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the Kumite days, I guess, in the
Right, yeah.
Real quick, I had mentioned I wanted to show you what my cat was sitting on, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I got the book used on Amazon recently. You know what's funny? That'll be discussed in the next video to this series. It's so worth the wait, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it, and please like the video if you haven't yet to support the channel, and we'll see you guys next time.